All right, guys, we're going into the last week of March, and I figure I'd give you a quick update on what's going on with the bass fishing out here on Kentucky Lake. Fishing's been good. You know, it's springtime. Everything's starting to green up. The buds on the trees are starting to bloom. Flowers are starting to bloom. March flowers have come and almost gone already. So it's springtime. Fish are up on the banks. Are a lot easier to pattern this time of year. And it seems like, you know, I've talked to you a little bit in the past about the number of 13, 14, 15-inch fish that's been in the lake. Well, a lot of those 14-inch fish last year, you know, are now 15 inchers. So a lot of good numbers, I guess you'd say. You know, you go out one day and you catch a good number of fish, and then the next day maybe a little bit tougher. But overall, you know, the fishing's been pretty good. You know, it's springtime. They're up there where they're a lot easier to catch. But lake conditions, you're looking about 355 lake level. Surprisingly enough, even with all the water they're holding down at Pickwick, the water hasn't jumped way up like I expected it to. I expected it, you know, to have one of those typical flooding deals on Kentucky Lake here, you know, in March like we did last year. But so far that's not been the case. They're holding it right there. It jumped up about 2 feet and then kind of stabilized, and now it's slowly falling again. So that 355 lake level is where we're at right now. Water temperatures are somewhere between 57 and 60 degrees, depending on where you're at in the lake. Now, I will say this, if you get way back in the creeks in like less than 2 feet of water, I'm seeing some 63, 64 degree water, and wouldn't surprise me a bit if you don't see a lot warmer than that. But you know what they say, when the warm rains come in, the warm nights that we get in the springtime, that'll drive those fish really super, super shallow. And that's what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Numbers have been good. You'll have one day where you catch them, one day where you don't, but that's kind of typical this time of year. And it really all depends on the weather. March and April on Kentucky Lake, you know, 1 out of every 3 days, the wind's going to blow 25 out of the north. It's just part of it. We deal with it. We deal with it every year. But, you know, and I've talked about this in the past, the wind is your friend in the springtime. You know, you want that wind. If you get that water clarity to where it's that typical, a lot cleaner looking water than what we've seen in the past, those fish are hard to catch on those sunny bluebird days. And when it's slick, you know, it's great for going out and taking a book and hanging out on the boat, you know, with the wife or something like that. But as far as fishing goes, it's not the best days to fish. So when you go out there and you catch them one day, throwing a crankbait or a chatterbait or a spinnerbait, and you go out there, you know, it's overcast, windy conditions, and you go out there and it's dead slick and sunny the next day, and you wonder why you don't get a bite. That's exactly why. You've got to really fish the conditions this time of year here on this lake, and that really has to do with the water clarity and you know, just I can drop the boat in the water in the mornings and tell you whether or not you're going to have a decent day or not. But this week we've had a lot of that nasty weather, and it really put those fish up there where you want them, to where they were kind of in that biting mood. I had a few good days, a few tough days too, you know, but overall the numbers are there. Like I say, the 13, 14, 15-inch fish that we've had in the past, those fish are keeper size now, and we're seeing a lot of good numbers. Not a lot of big fish. I've not caught a lot of big ones, you know, but that's kind of par for what we've seen over the last few years. You know, we just don't have that age class of fish. You know, we're missing that age class of fish, but we're getting there. You know, the Asian carp we've talked about in the past, you know, the lake is not doom and gloom like a lot of people think it is. You still have some really good days out there, and the good news is we're on the uphill swing of things, and I think in the next couple of years we're really going to see, you know, some good numbers being caught out here on this lake, and we already are. So excited about that. Look forward to the next few weeks. You know, it's springtime here, and a lot of fun here on Kentucky Lake right now. So let's talk real quick about a few baits. Those sunny bluebird days, like I say, it's pretty tough. You can still catch a few fish on the bottom when they get like that. I've talked about this before. Any of you that watched my reports in the past knows that I like to fish a lot on the east side, fishing gravel banks, you know, channel swings, current breaks, stuff like that. That's another thing to keep in mind. TVA has been ripping some current. I mean, 200,000 a day right now, and it's almost too much. There is such thing as too much current, because you know, it's hard to fish like a Ned rig or something on the bottom, you know, where typically you would throw it out there and drag it and let it sweep down. But if it's up in the water column and it never hits the bottom, then you're kind of defeating the purpose of even being there anyway. But the days that the current allows me, the Ned Fry from 6 cents on a Ned rig, I fish that a good bit. Shaky head, stuff like that, anything on the bottom, little small brush hogs, stuff like that. I've caught some fish on doing that kind of stuff. But anybody that knows me, that's fished with me, know that I don't sit in one spot very long. I like to chunk and wind, and the power fishing. If I get up and see those nasty, cloudy, windy days, that's the days that I want to be out there this time of year. And probably the number one bait for me over the last couple of weeks has been a lipless. This is the 6 cents Quake, and this is the Tiger Truce. It's been, water clarity has been kind of dirty on especially on the west side of the lake. And this is, you can hear this bait here. That's the rattling bait. They actually make one that's called the Thud, and it's a knocking bait. There's a lot of brands out there that make the, different ones, but 6 cents makes the Thud. This is the color called Jungle Rose, and anybody that knows this lake knows that the orange, red, bright colors this time of year, but you can hear the difference. That's a knocking bait there, and there's been days where that rattling bait doesn't work that good, but something, even a silent bait or the knocker has been the best. But that's probably been, as far as numbers, is in the lipless, is that that Quake Thud, and then just the regular rattling bait, and also a spinnerbait, an accent spinnerbait. This is the threadfin shad. It's just the willow with the little Colorado on it. I even throw in that dirty water, a double Colorado blade this time of year, just a little split tail trailer on the back. And everybody knows how to fish a spinnerbait. You just pick those nasty, windy days, and a lot of times that'll get you a little bit better bite, that spinnerbait will. Another bait that has worked really good out here has been a chatterbait. And like I say, it's just power fishing at its best. You go in the creeks and you find the fish right now about halfway back in the backs. And when that sun peaks out in the afternoons, you can get back there super, super shallow. About the time you start kicking up mud and decide to pull the trolling motor and say, I'm getting out of here, you need to keep going, because those fish are back there in that much water. I mean, super, super shallow. A 3/8 ounce jackhammer. This is the Yamamoto Zico that's on the back of that one right there. Black and blue has been especially in that dirty water, has been a good bait for me. And then when they're on those gizzard shad, just the typical whites, the shad colors, same thing. It's a 3/8 ounce, especially fishing in that super, super shallow water back there. But that's the baits for me here the last couple of weeks. And anybody that's fished out here knows that that's kind of been the deal, is the crankbaits. The shad wrap, they're kind of starting to get off of that stuff, where that colder water bait. A jerk bait is something that I like to fish this time of year, but I haven't got a chance to because the water clarity has been so, it's kind of that milky looking color and hasn't really cleared up. And then once that water temperature hits that mid 50s, typically they start to get off of that and they start to get on the lipless and the chatterbaits and the spinnerbaits, stuff like that. But overall, that's kind of it. Like I say, 57, 60 degree water, you get way backs in the back, so you're looking at low 60s, 355 water level. Be safe out there. I did notice, for any of you watching this that's going to be out over the weekend or next week, there are a few buoys that are out of place that I've seen on the crossing channels. And at 355, you've got to run those crossing channels. You can't just cross anywhere you want to out there. So main thing is be safe out there. Water is still super, super low. You guys want to get out on the water. I've got some days coming up here in the next month or so. We'll get out on the water, do a Lowrance class. I'm still offering the on-water training there, working at High Tech Outdoors when I'm not on the water. And any of you wanting to book a fishing trip, let's get out on the water. Shoot me an email at info@brandonhunterfishing.com, and I'll see you guys out on the water.